Welcome back to the podcast series reviewing the free agent signings that occurred during the 2037-2038 offseason. This is the third segment of a series looking at the Johnson League, and we'll cover the teams in the Sun Belt. I'm, again, Ted Schmidt, and with me are still Randy Wiegand and Stephen Lane, and we'll just jump right in.
The Sun Belt, Vegas.
Carlos Camacho is a useless turd. Why did they sign him for 3 years?
You're so biased about what players did for you, which I think is fair.
I never had Carlos Camacho.
Oh.
I never once had Carlos Camacho.
Yeah, I know where I'm going with this. Look, Carlos Camacho is versatile, and somebody's going to decide they can get something out of him. I don't know if that's a good decision.
And he the ultimate clubhouse cancer. And you would think Recti, who had Travis Lara, would know this and know to stay away from it.
Rex would tell you, were he here, that he likes to make the same mistakes over and over again. I think I've heard him make fun of himself about it before. Antonio Robles is Antonio Robles. Looks like he might be the starter. Looks like that could be okay.
I like that structure. It's the team options.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Is anybody happy about Vegas getting Mauro Flores besides Rect?
Well, he's not in the frick, so
that's true.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Okay, maybe I'll be happy about that. I love Matt. I'm glad for him that his team got better, but it's kind of like the Yankees signing a top pitcher, right? We're just great, wonderful.
Well, depending on your point of view, did you see the bonuses and the incentives on this deal?
Are they advanced?
For 200 innings, he gets $5 million. For Nebraska, he gets $4 million, and for an All-Star game, he gets $2 million.
Yeah, that's a little more incentive-y than I usually am, and I'm on the high end. Although,
I mean, in theory, that's $11 million in incentives every single year.
Well, it's not though, right? Because he's not going to get the Nebraska every year. It's 7. It's probably 7, which is quite.
It's probably even questionable that he gets 200 innings. He has only done that once since 33.
Yeah.
Well, but to be fair, he was also on Brooklyn a couple of those
years.
Well,
but even in Valencia, he came in just under. So maybe Rect is just working that system, just massaging the heck out of the system. Although, I will say, since you're here, $7 million sounds like a lot in bonus money every year, because it is. But I believe we might have a gentleman here who once paid more than that in bonus amounts. I think. Didn't you, Stephen? Didn't you once have an $8 million bonus?
I think that was Bailey. I think he had.
Or was it 5?
About that much.
Was it 5? Was it 8 base salary with 5 as the bonus?
I don't know. It was a lot. It was way too much.
Either way, let's just all say that Rexy, we all learned advanced bonus techniques from Professor Rex.
I don't know that I did. I am perfectly scummy enough to figure it out on my own.
But yeah,
I honestly don't think they matter that much. I really don't think they're. I think the players, OTP used to have such a huge contract manipulation issue that I think that it's gotten pretty damn good about players not letting you move their average annual value a whole heck of a lot, regardless of what you do to them. I think you might be able to slide it $1 million or $2 million, and I've noticed that there's a diminishing returns. Once you've moved it, maybe $1 million, you can keep throwing bonus money at them all you want, and it doesn't seem to go any further. I don't know. Have you ever noticed, as another guy who, do you mess around with bonus funds in your or bonus with bonuses in your extensions, Stephen? Much?
Yeah, not as much as free agents, but a little bit.
Have you noticed that too? That they really don't seem to have the impact that they once did, or at least that they don't let you move the value that much. The players just nope, this is the average salary I want. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely not. I haven't been doing it for that long to say how it's changed, but I don't think it's that impactful.
Right. So
the other interesting thing to me about this one is the 2 vesting options at the end that require 25 starts.
I like those.
So Rex, you don't, or you
I
do?
Right?
You like them from the GM perspective or from the player perspective?
I like them from the GM perspective. I think that's a. I almost wonder why, like, and Stever's somewhere blowing a gasket. But from a purely tactical contract manipulation standpoint, you have to pay for team option buyouts, right? Vesting options.
I mean, normally, yeah.
Vesting options are just they're basically team options with no buyout if you work them right. I wonder why we don't see more of them. And like you think, well, you don't get to start in 5 games. Do you know what the difference is between like Mauro Flores and like your best AAA prospect pitcher for 5 games? Like it's not much. It's not a win.
Well, I mean, and when I used to do the pitching, the game score thing, which I haven't done the last couple of years because I've kind of shifted my focus into other things. But 25 is what I pulled the league, and that kind of is what we came across as a full season.
Right.
Because it's basically you can miss a month worth of starts, which is, I mean, guys get banged up here and there. They miss 2 weeks here. You know what I mean? That happens sometimes, even to the best guys.
Yeah, so you might not even have to
basically
skip that many.
Yeah, Rect is basically saying, I want a full season out of Mauro Flores in each of those years. And as we just saw with Aaron and Gomez, you can get a lot out of your guys, but just have them miss that vesting option if you want them.
Well, but the other thing here is, let's not look at this entirely from a cynical standpoint. That's also injury protection, right? Like if Mauro Flores gets hurt enough that he misses say, you could even make this lower, you can make it 20 games. If Mauro Flores has like a half-season injury, I want out of that deal. I like, at his age, like you don't want to...
Especially if it's an arm.
Right. Arm or like elbow or shoulder. So I really like those. I think we probably should be seeing... there's a reason in real life that you don't see too many vesting options, because players aren't stupid. Or at least their agents mostly aren't.
I really admit, I'm jealous because I tried to get on Flores, but he didn't like my manager, so he told me to go pound sand.
I think it was like 10 freaking people could talk to Flores. Like, which it was just annoying. It might be realistic, but it's just freaking annoying that he was just not available.
I know Marco was one, which I don't know. Was Marco really going to have 65 or 70 million tied up in 2 stars?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, I couldn't talk to him. You couldn't talk to him. Marco couldn't talk to him. Steven, did you try to talk to Flores?
I don't think so. I think I decided I didn't like him enough to pay.
Okay, so
what he was asking.
So you don't know if you could talk to him or not.
Yeah.
Okay. So Mexico City. I thought Las Vegas did good. But I mean,
yes, they did.
Brecht already summed it up. He got rid of his offseason consisted of getting out of Harsnett and Sweet World and adding Flores. That's about as good as you do. Mexico City needed the second base, and they signed a reliever. So sure, whatever. Leonardo Gonzalez.
I like
the deal's fine.
I like the deal because you're betting on the talent over the performance, and if it continues to be the performance outweighs the talent, then you have 2 team options where you can just say bye.
Yep. I don't think there's... Steven, unless you have something burning that you want to add to that?
No.
Okay.
No. Decent reliever, good deal.
I enjoyed... my notes have fun little names for me. Phoenix is division titles are renamed and teams are renamed. So we just got done with the Mexico City rainouts, and we're moving on to the Phoenix rotator cuffs, which for them...
By the way, in honor of Phoenix, and because it's almost 9:00 at night here, I will drink some Vodak and pour one out for.
So there was a whole
for Vodak leaving.
I usually read the media guide. I always read the media guide. Apparently, there was a whole article about how like Vodak was like a scam and it got shut down and other stuff, and I missed all of that. Totally missed it.
Damn it! If I'm still not gonna bring it up because I used it in my team news when I won the Landis. Well, I had John Reed drinking Vodak in the locker room to celebrate every series win.
You know what? It's probably really expensive now. It's like Crystal Pepsi. Like, you just can't find that. Taylor doesn't listen to this because it's like I don't want to listen to a bunch of old guys. But Taylor's out there like, what's Crystal Pepsi?
Taylor should be listening to this and going, what's vodka?
No.
I mean, he's only 18. He should be wondering
Doesn't
what
mean he
vodka
doesn't
is.
know what it is. Like,
That's a fair point. And also, doesn't he manage a team in Canada, so he can drink up there. He's fine.
you know what? I've never been a big fan of Bryce Harper, but that is one of my favorite answers to a reporter question ever. Did you remember that?
Yeah, because not only is he underage, well, I guess he was of age in Canada, but the whole Mormon thing, that was great.
Right, but it was just
fantastic.
like, that's a clown question, bro. That's awesome. That's a perfect answer out of like a young professional to like somebody who's trying to be like, oh, you're a kid, are you gonna party? Like, just shut the hell up. That was so good.
And the look of sheer disdain on his face when he said it too.
Oh, it's great. Oh, it's just so good. All right, Dylan Young. I don't know. Steven, did you ever have Dylan Young?
I like it.
You had Dylan Young at one point, didn't you?
I did for a little while.
Is it just like every player in free agency? Hey, Steven, did you have this guy? Randy traded for them, and you signed them as a free agent. That's why you guys are here. Like every player in the league.
No, more likely I traded him, not traded for him. Because I don't trade for that many guys. I keep the ones I trade for. It's the ones I trade out that spread all over the league.
Well, fair enough. But eventually you trade everyone out, so it's the same thing.
Like, Steven, did you see Estika Ramadine in the deal? That was a guy that you and I had. Remember him?
Yes. I do. I just looked at him the other day. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I saw that one. I went, holy shit, he's still kicking around. How about that?
Man,
But yeah,
Phoenix needs to make a trade with Boise. Sorry, this is a random aside. Phoenix has Maxine Manceau, and Boise has Maxence Mace and Maxon Macon. And Maxine Manceau needs to be on that team with those guys. Those guys all need to be in the same place. Sorry. Okay. Dylan Young. Do we?
Boise has no talent. Boise has no talent. They have no talent to lose. They're terrible.
Well,
Why do I have this team?
Well, I mean, things happen. Dylan Young.
This ballpark was built by a kindergartner.
Does Dylan Young have anything left?
I like it. I may be crazy, but I like that deal.
It's super cheap.
He's a closer stopgap. That's fine. That's a good deal for a stopgap closer.
He struck out 10 per 9 last year.
Yeah, I think it's a great price, and he's not showing anything that makes me worry that he doesn't have at least one more good year.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's just had some weird ERAs, but like that seems to just be more BABIP stuff than anything, right? Like it looks.
Yeah, he
walks a few too many. His six.
Yeah, and they went up a little bit.
I didn't realize this. He walked 6 batters per 9 innings last year in Brooklyn. It's only 28 innings, so like 2 bad days maybe can do that.
That's JJ Elizondo territory right there.
That's really weird. But I don't think that's real. I mean, that's just kind of odd.
No, I think he's fine. I think for a team that has, because Marco kind of has a small window sneakily because he's got a lot of guys coming up for contracts. And if you're going to try to not blow your budget and at the same time try to keep your window open to contend, this is the sort of guy you sign as your closer.
Yeah, I should be happier about this, right? Because I'm the don't pay for relief stuff. And he got a good reliever and didn't pay for him. I should be more happy about this than I am.
You're just hungover, Ted.
What?
You're just hungover.
Yeah, I'm a little hungover. Okay,
I'm drinking and you're hungover.
San Antonio.
Not happy. Did they have any money to spend after last year?
They did. They spent like $15 million almost.
Well, to be fair, 11 was on one guy.
They signed Wilmer Gagne, Jose Gamboa, Ramon Garza, and Jesus Casas, and they addressed some needs. They needed a catcher. They needed some relief help. They needed a center fielder. They needed a shortstop too, but I don't think they were going to get that in their budget. They were going to get either a center fielder or a shortstop, and they got one of them. And they have some defense first shortstops. They just can't hit it all, I believe. If I remember looking correctly.
The thing about Gagne that I really like is this is basically a 2-year deal because he still has an arbitration year after this one.
Is that the deal there? I was wondering why so short. That was kind of...
Because he still has 1 year of arbitration left.
Yeah.
So this is essentially a 2-year contract that he just snuck in as a 1-year deal because Calvaruso's sneaky.
Now that makes more sense because I don't... Gagne's had some problems staying on the field, unfortunately.
This is the way to manage that, because this is essentially a team option that you don't have to pay a buyout for.
Right.
Well done, Mike Calvaruso.
Well, here's my question, though. Sorry, Steven, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ted.
If you stretch this out, because I don't know that anyone else going to pay $11 million a year for Will Gagne. So if you stretch this out and say you make it like 7.5 to 8 over 2 years, do you still get that ARB?
No. Would buy out the last ARB.
Are you sure?
But you should have at least. Yeah, because your service time is still going to be over 6 years at the end of that deal.
So wait,
you would have locked the price in. Is what you would have done. Because the problem with this is the price of the last ARB year is based on this year's contract. So the ARB ask is like 11.5, or the ARB estimate is like 11.5. Whereas if you had signed him to an 8-year deal, it probably would have, or an $8 million deal, it probably would have been like 8.5 or 9.
So is the game screwing up? Because occasionally you see somebody like sign a free agent and they sign a guy that ends up having 2 ARB years left. I did that recently. Or did I just find a 31-year-old with 4 years of service time?
I don't pay enough attention to how real baseball works in that regard, because you don't see that many guys that you actually care about unless it's your team.
In real baseball, I think it's very rare that you'll have a guy that would sign for this amount of money that was not tendered a arbitration
that
contract.
I agree with, because they're going to sign for this amount of money. I mean, you'll occasionally see guys who get non-tendered and they're worth this amount of money, but they're going to sign for more than 1 year.
Right.
I just don't. I don't know. It's an odd situation, but it looks like it's going to work out pretty well.
Yeah. The bigger question here is, if you needed a center fielder, why did you sign Gagne?
Because he's not really a center fielder.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. This might be Calvaruso just moving out of his comfort zone a little bit. He tends to play lots of defense and no bats, and maybe he's just
maybe he feels he can sacrifice one.
I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? Don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and his bat is fine, but I don't know. He's not a very good clubhouse guy either. I don't really like the deal.
Yeah, I'm not excited about it. I think the best I can say is kind of okay.
I like it from the perspective that he essentially gets a 2-year deal for the price of 1 year.
Right. Well,
because if he instead of having to pay money to decline the team option that most of us have to do in year 2 if we sign this sort of deal, he can just decline the arbitration and he gets off scot-free.
Yeah. The other thing is that Dax Norris is going to be probably ready to play next year. And Dax Norris actually kind of is a center fielder. Not a great one, but he actually looks like he may be a real one. So,
can he shift Gagne over to the corner? Who does he have in the corners? Because I know he had Paul Warren, who we discussed earlier.
Chang and Mark White. Probably.
Oh, so no, he's fine in the corners, because those are 2 pretty good corner out. I mean, I don't know how they were in the field, but you're not moving those guys off the corner.
Right. I don't know. It's fine. I'm more with Steven than I am with you. Like, injuries, clubhouse stuff. I mean, but on the other hand, if he'd played a whole season last year, he would have been like a 6 or 7 win player. So it's
yeah. I just like the creativity of signing the 1 year when he has the arbitration year, so you essentially get that second year.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good point. I just, it's just too much money, I think, for what he is.
Yep. They got Jose Gamboa for $1 million, which is a good price, but I hope they have a better plan at catcher. Ramon Garza.
I like Jose Gamboa. That's one of my old guys. I've always had a soft spot for him.
Yeah,
I think for $1 million, that's fine.
Oh no,
he's not great.
It's fine, but he's not a starter, and they needed a better catcher. But I can't blame them. They didn't have a lot of money. It's just a fine price for him. But
yeah, this falls into what I was talking about earlier, and the same thing with Colby Stevens that I didn't mention with Nashville is, if you're looking for a backup catcher, you pay $1 million, $1.5 million, and that's fine.
Yeah,
that's what they're worth.
Right. Ramon Garza is 2.5. Is probably a waste of money.
I don't know if he could start. Can he start?
I think he's being looked at as a reliever, right?
I think he is maybe a little expensive, but he will be a good reliever.
Why do you think he'll be a good reliever? Oh, you know what?
Well, if he's used correctly.
All his crap.
If he's
you're right.
If he's used mainly against righties, you've got an extreme ground ball 6'8" guy with 3 pitches. He'll be fine.
Okay.
You guys are a lot better at this than I am. Is Garza a guy you can convert?
No.
Is what?
Is he a guy you can convert?
No.
Because I'm terrible at that. I converted Tommy Dietz, and it worked out so badly.
The Dietz one should have worked.
Scarred.
The Dietz one didn't work because he was lumping, and he continued to lump after he converted. That's why Dietz didn't work. The reason you don't convert Garza is that the pitches that he is giving up will not make an impact in his fastball and forkball. There's not enough rating there. And the velocity, everybody gets the velocity bump, and he's a fastball guy, so that will help some. But, I doubt that he's any better after conversion. And I've actually kind of was pooping on. I'm looking at Garza a little bit more now. He wasn't so bad as a starter a few years back. But I agree. I think the better role for him is the reliever used correctly.
Yeah, I don't think you start him.
I think he's your long reliever that if you need a starter for a month, you can toss him in there and he won't kill you.
Yeah.
Kill you, but
yeah, emergency situation. Jesus.
But they have
Casas.
they have a good top 2.
Yep.
Looking at San Antonio, they have a good top 2.
They do.
Condo and Carpenter.
Yeah. I don't care about Jesus Casas. I don't want to talk about him. Let's go to Wichita. Wichita needs a lot of things on offense. Or I'm sorry, they need a lot of pitching. They need a lot of pitching things, and they need a lot of things. They need a lot of things. They signed Gabriel Talamate.
That's a long deal. The money's about right, but why does he get a 6-year contract with Ted? Your favorite structure of all time.
I hate team option after player option after team option. I mean, we all have pet peeves, and I'm not going to say that it's any more egregious than any of the other manipulations of OTPs, but actually, I am. It is more egregious, but
it is. It's worse than the bonus structuring.
Yeah, because
now, in all fairness to Stu, so we don't get accused of ripping on him.
Everyone,
at least he didn't offer a $13 million player option after a $7 million team option. At least the money is somewhat
right, or the second or 2 team options, and the second one's 3 times the first one. And the other thing is, again, Steve's not the only. You're Steven. Stu is not the only one that does this. It's not like he's some evil troll. This is a thing that we can do, so people do it.
Stu is an evil troll, but this.
and he's got a $3 million buyout on the team option, so I think it's fine.
It's not the end of the world. I just don't like that OTP should not. Allowed. The player should say no. Anytime there's a player option after a team option, the player should say, I should just decline the contract, because it's so not in their favor that the game logic should say.
Or make you pay so much, or make you pay over the AAV so significantly beforehand.
Right.
That it doesn't really matter.
Right. Yeah, it's just, this is the game just not being very smart. The other thing I don't like about this is it's an escalating contract for a 30-year-old guy, and I just hate that.
Well, it's also one of his old Louisville guys, so I'm sure there's some sort of.
Well, yeah, and he's an upgrade over George Anderson V, who probably shouldn't be playing second base anymore. But on the other hand, then where's Anderson going to play, right?
Is he going to play?
Well, he probably should. He's a decent hitter. He's not a great hitter. I guess maybe he just doesn't play. Seems odd, right?
And then as far as the pitching, he signed a bunch of 4th and 5th starters.
Yeah, the only signing I have written down for Stu is the Talamate one, and that's not correct. So I don't.
He signed Esteban Sanchez for 2 years, $6.2 million.
Yeah.
He signed Ricardo Ortiz for 1 year, $2.4 million. He signed Rogelio Vasquez for 1 year, $2 million. And then for some unknown reason, he signed Hiroyuki Rin for 6 years, $48 million, with $3 million the first year and $9 million every year after that, with the last year being a player option.
Well, he intends to start Rin.
He has to, but
he doesn't.
Rin is also
doesn't have to. He just intends to, and Wren, as used as a starter last year, was a 5-win starter. I mean, I'd pay $9 million for a 5-win starter.
But he's also like 32 years old, isn't he?
Yeah, it's long, right? I don't think the value's bad. I think the length is frightening a little bit.
Wren turned 32 just after the season ended, so he'll pitch this whole year at 32. But that means he'll finish out this contract when he's 37. Yeah. I don't know and he was okay as a starter, but it's not like he was world beating.
That's pretty good. I think the ERA makes this look. His FIP was 3. His ERA was a whole run higher than his FIP. Like, he was a good starter.
But doesn't Edmonton kill homers and Stu just moved its fences in?
I don't know. Stu's fences aren't horrible. They're in the left-handed side's a little homer happy. And Edmonton, what does Edmonton do? Yep, Edmonton kills homers. So, good call. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not as upset. As anti this contract as you. I mean, the length is frightening. The length is
yeah. Because I'm anti giving a 32-year-old pitcher with a spotty record as a starter 6 years, $48 million.
I don't think he has a spotty record as a starter, man. I think he has a good record as a starter.
Has he? I mean, he hasn't started, but this last year was the first year he had started.
No, started in 27, 28, 29, and 30, which is granted a decade ago, but he was also good as a starter then. I don't know. I don't think there's a question as to whether or not Wren can start. I think that question's been answered. Now, you don't like low stamina guys.
And three is even low for the low. Like, Steven, you can chime in on this. You don't mind your low stamina for a moment. So. Oh. But I mean, 3 is there's a big difference between 3 and 4.
Right.
Stamina for pitcher.
It looks like you can get about 150 innings out of him. 150 innings of 5-win baseball. I like if Stu's not tying himself into the box of my starter has to go this number of innings and throw this many pitches and you can get that value out of him for a couple of years, I think it's fine. I still agree with you on the length. The length is unfortunate.
But also my thing with this was, at least for the next couple of years, Wren is the best starting pitcher he has, or the worst at number 2.
Yeah, well, the other guys aren't real exciting, but Stu needed a lot of starters, so he at least got the parts.
He's basically
the parts to help.
Steven, I see you're back. Well, I mean, what are your thoughts on 3 versus 4 stamina as a starting pitcher? We're talking about here for Wichita.
3, I mean, it's low, but if you're just asking about the difference between 3 and 4, I don't think it matters.
Yeah. Take that, Randy. We've been debating. It's fine.
No, I mean, because we're basically wondering, is Hiroyuki Wren, we're paying him, which we both agree that 6 years is too long for a 32-year-old, but can he be an effective starting pitcher?
How long has his stamina been a 3?
Yeah, was it 3 last year?
Was it a 3?
This is where we're running to what scouting report do we trust?
Was it a 3 when he was, starting 30 games for Atlantic City when he first came up, or
it was 4 back then?
Okay, so even so, last year, I assume it was 3 last year.
If I remember correctly, it was 6, and he had an arm injury and came back without any of his stamina.
Okay, well, regardless, 3 stamina, so what? You put his pitch count at 80 and get 5 good innings out of him.
Yeah, that was it.
Especially with the 9 control, he's not going to be walking a lot of guys. You're still going to get some innings out of him.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I agree. I think I would totally, if I thought that Wren could do what he did last year, which I don't think is too big of a leap, I would totally pay him $9 million a year. I would not do it until he's 37 years old. And
I think he probably retires before the end of this contract, but
do you? I think he might just be terrible.
I think if you're Wichita and you don't have a bunch of salary cap concerns, I think it's fine, especially for a guy that's going to put a few butts in the seats.
Yeah, that's fair. It's fine. Yeah, I don't. Randy hates this deal. I think it's just kind of a, it's got a good side and a bad side, but we can disagree, right?
Yeah, and I don't like blame. Stephen, you and I are polar opposites in this. I've gone on record many times as saying I hate low stamina starters.
Yep.
It just depends on how you use them.
This is true, and I acknowledge that. I mean, and you use them in a way like the Chris Rios signing made perfect sense for you. I hate to steal your thunder from later, Ted, but the Rios signing makes perfect sense for you, Stephen. It wouldn't have made sense for a guy like me who wants my guys to go 6-7 innings every time.
Let's talk about Ricardo Ortiz. How much did you pay Ricardo Ortiz? $2 million for 2.4 for 1. That seems fine for a fungible starting arm, he's a back of the rotation arm. I have not made.
That's all he signed. He signed Ortiz and Sanchez and another guy whose name I'm forgetting right now. For all around $2 million. Yeah, for all around $2 million to pay to be a fourth or fifth starter.
Yeah, it's I think better than they were. I don't know. Wichita is like
the problem for Stu is that rotation is the one good, or that division is the one good division in the Johnson.
Right. Well then,
so he's gonna have a tough time cracking that top three.
But it makes even more sense then at this point for him to not be like spending millions of dollars on short-term solutions, right? Like Wichita is they're in a weird spot in that like they're not awful, but they've got a lot of work to do to get competitive, and it's just hard. Like it's just one of the toughest places to be with a team is that, like trying to get over the hump. So I don't.
Yeah, and I mean they're especially for an expansion franchise, he's done he's done really well with them, especially when you compare him to now. Granted, Boise's had a lot of turnover.
Yeah, Boise's just been rudderless. So I think that there's no way that Brett didn't have a plan with Boise. Like he's been around too long, too good of a GM. However, Brett's builds are not, and Brett has been very successful with them, but they're not like typical. We've seen Jeff be really unhappy with the park format that Schrader created, and Brett was probably, when he was drafting and putting stuff together, was doing it specifically for that park format. And then when you put in like two or three other people in between there, like it's just that they just didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, Boise's been a turnstile, and the problem is it hasn't been a turnstile of veteran guys that know the league and know how to, like, it's not like you had guys like Robillard. I mean, Jeff's been in the league before, but he's the end of it. Like between there, you had a couple of guys who I don't think were just league veterans or league rookies. I think they were relatively new to OOTP in general.
Right.
And I think that, like, is shown by the fact that I don't even know which one it was, but they signed Carlos Gonzalez, a power hitter, right-handed power hitter, to go to a park that absolutely kills that sort of stuff.
Right, exactly. But Steven's happy because he got him back at a discount. So
yes, he did.
Are you still there, Steven?
Can't complain about that.
You are still there.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
So we've gotten through. Oh, I'm sorry, man. I cut you off.
No, I was just saying. I was just listening to you guys talk.
Yeah, that's because we start to yell at each other. It's I think we've gotten through everybody.
We did.
We usually do like a winners and losers thing, but like I don't know that we can.
I like Vegas.
Yeah, well, we just,
as much as I said Carlos Camacho's a useless turd, Mauro Flores completely outweighs that.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I like the deal.
I don't know if there's a loser. Like, why don't we just do our favorite contracts?
No, I don't see a big loser. I like the Flores contract, and for the lower value, I really like the Paul Warren deal from Huntsville.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say Warren is probably my favorite deal. I definitely don't like the Flores contract as much as you guys, or at least as much as Randy, but it's fine. It's fine.
Why don't you like the Flores deal?
I think it's too much money, and for as much as I love guys with splits in my bullpen, I really hate guys with splits in the rotation. And the 9-5-7 versus lefties really scares me, especially given the amount of lefties that we have in the league. Now, should I let that impact me after he's, never had an ERA over 4 in his career? Probably not, but it just, for me to commit that many years and that much money to a guy, I just didn't like it that much.
If that wasn't a 5 and it was a 6, like, so let's say you knew you could be a full point higher. So let's say he's 5.5 now and you knew that was a 6.5 motion. Would you care as much? Or is that really the big thing?
I wouldn't, if the movement was better, that would, if it was like a 6.5, that would be a lot better. But
it's not.
It's not. So,
I think it's interesting that you say that that's too much money. I agree. I don't ever want to play a single player on my roster $26 million as an average annual value. Like, I just don't. I don't know that you can win like that with those as long-term deals. Now, I shouldn't say that. You can. People have done it. So I shouldn't say that I don't know that you can. I know that you can. I think that makes it very hard, right? Like
absolutely.
It ties you into you have to have young, cost-controlled stars to do that.
Right.
Which means at some point you had to have been.
What I was going to say is
terrible.
Yeah.
At some point you had to have been.
You need guys.
Or you have to
you need guys that are on their rookie deals in order for that to work.
And then, and it just you lose so much flexibility with a deal like that. So it's interesting to hear you say that, because I feel like the Leafs. Remember when Atlantic City signed Eduardo Lopez and Correa to, I think it was around $26 million deals. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, that's so much! It's insane." But we've seen so much of it recently that it seems like it's normal. And as I've watched that happen, I'm just sitting here thinking, the cap's not gotten bigger. So
my question then, if I can turn this to you, Ted, how would you? I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but how do you feel about paying Dempster 22?
I'm okay with that one. And the reason I'm okay,
because he's been so good it doesn't.
Because he's the best pitcher. He's the best pitcher in the league. Now he might not be for long. He's 29, so maybe I shouldn't be. But but he's so good. That's the But it's also $4 million less, right? 22 versus 26 is a significant difference. That's a whole player. That's a
Yes. That's a big money difference, and just the ratings difference is Dempster's a lot more solid versus lefties than
right. He's just a better player.
Flores. Yeah. Well, and what I had to make that decision this offseason. Do I want to go after Flores, or do I want to go after Greenwood and Rios? And now it depends on the makeup of your rotation. Obviously, Vegas was starting with a better rotation than me, but I just, I'd rather spread that money out.
I like your choice better. On the other hand, I'm not sure you should have been able to get Greenwood and Rios at the prices that you did. I think you did a really good job of jumping all over free agency this year. Just, starting out of the gate hot. And
spoiler alert, Ted.
Yeah, I'm not waiting. This was not a free agency class to wait in, I don't think. I think it was
for the guys that you want, and this is a little inside the BBA for any of the new guys that might still be listening, you cannot wait on a guy that you want in free agency in this league, because they will go in that first sim.
Right. And so you put in your best.
Morrow Flores.
Sorry.
Yeah, Morrow waiting as long as he did was the exception to the rule.
Right.
That does not happen usually.
Right.
And that's probably because, as we discussed earlier, he didn't want to talk to half the teams in the league that wanted to talk to him.
Right. And I've always been, I've been in different leagues, I think you guys have too, with different free agency structures. There's a part of me that wishes we had more spread out sims, so there's a little bit more negotiation, but it'll also make it long and boring, so I get it. But in a structure like this, you absolutely need to be getting your best bid in early. Just put a value on a player, decide that's what you think you're worth, and put the offer out there. And if you don't get them, you don't get them. But even in other structures that were I had one that was we had one that was I've had a couple others that are blind auctions. We had one that was an open auction. You just had to have a bid for a day. You had to have 24 hours of being the top bid, and that was the whole free agency system. Even in
God, that would be so confusing to keep track of.
Oh no, you just sorted stuff by date, and you just had to look. It was, but like it was. I mean, it was.
No, but I mean, as far as figuring out how much money you had to spend individually.
No, you just got used to it. Like, it was fine. I mean, we didn't even have that was older software. We didn't even have OOTPs like owner telling us you couldn't spend more. You just had to know. It wasn't so bad. But the thing is, even in there, it was still the same. Best offer early. Don't budge. If the player, I mean, you can revise. You can look at it again and go, okay, fewer guys are available. Is it now worth more to me to pay a little bit more? Has the valuation of this changed? But like, overwhelmingly, it was just advantageous in every format I've been in to get into free agency. Like especially, Steven, as you were saying, for the big name players, for the good players, you put in your bid for what you're worth, and if you lose out on them, you lose out on them. Because otherwise you won't get it.
Yeah.
Now, waiting on older guys like vets, things you can get on 1-year deals, fungible relievers. Yeah, you can wait on those and see you can sneak out later, but not for the big
Basically,
players.
I think, Ted, what you and I did this year, as far as signing guys in Sims 3 and 4, like good players, because you signed Alfredo Martinez and I signed Jaden Harsnett. Normally, those are the guys where you either sign them in Sim 1 or 2, like early, or you get them in free agency. You don't usually see those caliber players going in Sims 3 and 4. So I think this year is sort of an aberration in that regard. And I think you and I having been around this league, I mean, I came in before 2032. We're now jumping into 2038. So what, 6 years?
Yeah, you're still a relatively young GM, man, comparatively.
Well, I know that, but I mean, I've still been around.
Yeah, but you're not a rookie. I mean, you're a vet here, so I get it. I'm just giving you a hard time.
But I've been around to know that those guys don't usually go in that time span. You get guys like Greenwood and all the players that Steven signed in the first sim. When I sent you a message going, "Holy shit, Steven signed everybody."
Yeah, they usually go in Sim 1, and if they're not Sim 1, Sim 2, right?
And then you get the guys like Popo and Karlamov where they sit, and you can sign them in spring training.
Yeah.
You don't usually get guys who can be actual impactful starters for your team in Sims 3 and 4. It usually does not happen.
But there's a reason.
Unless there's been... No, I said unless there's been an extensive... For some reason, like 5 teams are bidding on him in Sims 1 and 2, and they're so heavily bid after that they just wait.
Yeah, but there's a reason that happened this year with Martinez and with Harsnett. In Harsnett's case, he has a bad rap. He was asking for a lot of money, and around Sim 4 he dropped his price a whole lot, because that's what happens after the new year. The same thing with Martinez. He dropped his asking price a whole bunch, and nobody wants to play him in the outfield. I'm gonna, because why not? But I mean, there's always an explanation for why it happens. But as we've rambled on and on, we're just repeating what Steven said in the first place with more words. Is that if you want a guy and he's good,
do it early.
Go get him.
Yep.
Well, I think we've gotten through just about everything. Thanks, Steven, for putting up with us talking over you constantly, being polite and quiet about it. So nice. Anyway, thanks to everyone who listened. This has been fun for us, which is why I continue to do it. And hopefully it has been fun for Randy and Steven, and even more hopefully it's fun for the people listening. But thanks, Randy. Thanks, Steven, for being here.
Thank you, Ted.